Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to my October wrap-up. I did not read a lot of scary books over the scary month because I was dealing with the real-life terror of having to be closed to indie review requests because I accepted way too many books. I have no self-control. So I stuck to reading mostly review books, and I managed to read 10 and fit in 4 for fun books beyond that. So this is going to be a rather shortish wrap up because I'm going to go over the review books quickly and then I will have their review videos linked down below. So first up was Privilege by Bharat Krishnan. This is an Indian American heist novel about a group of friends who are going to steal a drug called WP. It's a satire on white privilege from a rich man, and it goes about as well as you'd expect from total newbies trying to do a heist. Up next, another heist novel, apparently it was the month for it, Run with the Hunted by Jennifer Donahue. I actually left this one on my list for like 10 months accidentally, so I did both a review video and a penitent reading vlog as my penance for waiting almost a year. So this is all about a trio of women who are expert diamond hunters, no group of friends at their first time here, and they steal some diamonds and then find out that there's like something etched on the diamonds and suddenly there's this whole conspiracy, but it is a novella, so it's a pretty quick read. I do have the sequel to this one, so I will get that out hopefully not in 10 months, but I would highly suggest that one. Red Velvet and Anemones by M.M. Ward. This is a very dark contemporary, all about a young woman who shows up at her adopted aunt's house with a child that is biologically not her daughter, but is also pregnant and newly divorced, and it uncovers what happened and what went wrong. Very dramatic, so many trigger warnings for a ton of different things. We're talking drug use, child abuse, miscarriage / the loss of a child. It's a lot, and I would put a ton of warnings for it. Wasn't entirely my cup of tea, but I definitely like the ideas that were brought up in it, and I would still suggest it if you're into that kind of super dark stuff. Dragon Mated by Kara Lockhart and Cassie Alexander is the next book. This was the finale in the Prince of the Other Realms series with our lovely Asian American protagonist, and it was not necessarily the exact ending I was hoping for, but the sexy scenes were still properly steamy, and it did still feel mostly closed, even if it still felt like a little open to me, but I enjoyed that series, and also I enjoy having another indie review series that I can take off my list. The Absolutely Amazing Adventures of Ava Applesauce by Roy L. Pickering Jr. and Aaron Rodgers Pickering is the next book, and this is a kidlit, aka above picture books but below mid-grade, all about a young girl whose father makes her this wooden castle from wood gifted to them by a strange neighbor, and wouldn't you know, Ava discovers that it can transport her to this magical world, and I was really intrigued by how adorable it was. She is a hamster named Goo Goo Woof Meow, and I'm in love with that, and also the illustrations are cute, and I believe there is a corresponding coloring book, but I don't know if it's still in stock. It sold out pretty quickly, but definitely want to pick for the youngins in your life this holiday season. Mask of the Nobleman by Laura Diaz de Arce. I had to basically force her to give me this one because it is so different from her more sci-fi horror work. This is a retelling of West of the Sun, East of the Moon. East of the Sun, West of the Moon. That one, about a young sculptor who is hired to carve out the doorways in this mysterious nobleman's manor. He keeps every inch of his skin covered from some strange curse and no one's sure why. And then feelings happen. And if you know the original telling, you kind of know what's going to happen next. But while it wasn't my favorite of her works, it was definitely a change in style. I would still 100% suggest it if you love fairy tale retellings. Tainted Moonlight by Erin Kelly. This is another book that got both a reading vlog and a review video, mostly because this is actually not the physical copy I read. I did the audiobook for the first time. I reviewed my first audiobook, and fun fact, I found out that it was the narrator's very first audiobook narrated, and I would not have guessed that. So I was really intrigued. This is all about a young werewolf named Corbin who was turned 5 years ago when a strange plague kind of broke out and created all those urban fantasy monsters, and someone very close to him gets attacked and turned into a werewolf, and so he has to help them uncover it while also dealing with himself. There's an adorable found family, with boyfriends, and I have found out that while I was very upset that RJ and Alex didn't get many boyfriendy moments in this one, they will get more in the future. And yes, I am 100% going to be continuing with the series, hopefully in audiobook form, because I oddly loved it, and that's out of character for me. Up next was Nightflower Shirking from the Light of the Sun by Li Xing. This is a fanfiction style ancient Chinese sapphic slash fic, all about a young cultivator who owes a life debt to this demoness and insists on following her around everywhere, although, like, she doesn't actually think she owes her a life debt. She's just really suspicious of her intentions and so wants to follow her around. And then feelings happen. I loved it. It was adorable. It's a very notable and unique style of writing, and again, ancient Chinese sapphic women. It's just fun for everyone. And my last review book of the month was Drag Queens, Emo Teens, and Big Dreams by Dylan James, the book that I basically demanded from the author because I was tired of waiting for him to email me one of his works, because I know he knows that I review this kind of work. This is a YA queer contemporary all about a young drag queen whose regular name is Corbin, basically being closeted from everyone in his life save from his best friend and his boyfriend, and his father, who he calls Sarge, being a very militant person, and it is very anxiety inducing. I wasn't expecting that. The coming out story for Corbin, as well as two other young gay characters in the story, gave me a lot more anxiety than I had anticipated, although that also just might be where I am as a person right now. But I would highly suggest this one, especially for queer readers. It's very adorable. While the main character and his boyfriend do have sex, there is no direct sex scenes, so it's still clear and clean if you're looking for that kind of thing. But also, it does end with the warm fuzzies if you're worried about that, although it is a very bumpy ride to get there. So the only non-review book that got its own video this time around was Wildfire, Hellhound by Zoe Chant. I did a reading vlog for this one because it was my most anticipated book of the fall. This is the second to last book in the, I'm gonna forget how this series is called. I think it's Wildfire Rescue. I don't remember, but this is the fifth book in this series by Zoe Chant. If you've been around my channel for a hot minute, you may know that this is one that has very strange and strong sentimental value to me, as I began reading this series when I began my journey as a foster parent, and so I waited until our first placement had gone back to her birth family before reading this one, and it was as dramatic and adorable as I needed in that moment, quite frankly, and I'm really excited for the finale. Alright, so now we're going to get on to the few books that got neither a review or any other kind of video. And these were a lot of books that I just kind of read at work a lot. My new job offers me a lot of downtime, thankfully, because it's also, in some cases, a little bit more stressful than my last job. So I read Hot as Puck and Sexy Mother Pucker, both by Lily Valente. These are some delightfully lighthearted and steamy romantic comedies, sports romances. Both are basically friends to lovers, which is my preferred form of romance. The first one is about these childhood friends suddenly realizing that there might be more to that relationship when Libby asks her friend for some dating advice that turns steamy. And the second one is about this single father, the captain of the NHL team, and the woman he had a fling with a while ago, but insisted that they had to remain just friends, but now he needs a pretend girlfriend for a weekend to impress his dead wife's parents. Admittedly, that part felt a little bit contrived, but still adorable, and I'm definitely going to be continuing with this series. I also read Fire, Fire, Dragon by Zoe Chant, and admittedly was not as big a fan of this one as I was hoping to be. This is the prequel series essentially to the Wildfire Shifters. This is literally like all of their parents getting together, so it should have been like an easy sell, right? But it really wasn't, and I've actually talked to Laura Diaz de Arce, who has read more of the series, and she says it gets better as you go on. But this one was all about a dragon shifter who meets this archaeologist and discovers that she is his true mate, but she had a run-in with another dragon, is now terrified of dragons, and said dragon is still coming after her for this historical artifact that she uncovered, and so he must both protect her and also kind of like bring her around to the idea of dragon shifters. It was very, very short, and I'm learning that I'm very particular with Zoe Chance's work, wherein I really like her later stuff, her very new stuff, but going far back in her catalog, I tend to not enjoy as much, so I might just start sticking to more of her new releases instead. And it's very strange because a lot of her older stuff just doesn't do anything for me. Meanwhile, the Wildfire Firefighter Shifter series is like one of my all-time indie favorites. It's a very wide range. And last, FYI, all of these books are out of order. I have not given them in the order I read them at all. Was the only spooky book I read just because it was the spooky month, and that is Shadows by Kristen Proby. I got this off of BookBub, and then my sister, who also got it for free on iBooks, said it was awesome, and so I read it. And this is the beginning of a paranormal, spooky romance series set in Louisiana, all about these three witch sisters. And in the first one, we see the witch sister that can see shadows of the dead, and she starts seeing more and more of them pop up, and she realizes they are the victims of a serial killer. And also, while all this is going on, she's falling for this FBI profiler who is quickly helping to try and catch the serial killer because, of course, it all hits closer to home than they expected. I loved this. I will definitely be continuing with this series. It definitely was a lot more romance than at first glance, but that's not an issue for me. I like romance. So in general, I was glad that was my one lone spooky book for the month. I mean, like Tainted Moonlight had werewolves, so like it was kind of on theme. But even then, the entire month was basically dedicated to catching up on indie reviews, and I'm so close to being entirely open again. I'm not going to be able to get to my list to actual zero books because at this point that's just a literal lost cause, but I am hoping to get it manageable around 5-ish so that I can then open to review requests again because I already have emails sitting in my inbox. But thank you so much. This was a fantastic month. I hit 100 indie book reviews, and considering the fact that I haven't even been doing this for a full 2 years, that's really impressive to me, and I hope to do another 100 moving forward. But with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.